Hi guys, welcome to part 4. Today we're going to be taking our character and setting up two more animations, the jumping animation and also a sliding animation. If you're using the same character as I am, then go ahead and download the new character with all the new animations from a link in the description, and then to import them into your current file, open the file that you have in your Unity project, and just press Shift and F1 to go to the link and append menu, and then just navigate to where the new file is on your hard drive, and go into Action and import all the new animations, which are the jump idle, jump run, land idle, land run, the slide, and get up. Okay, so then you can just hit link and append, and you can see all of these new ones have been imported, and you just need to go through each of them and just press this F button over here to make sure that it has a user so that it doesn't get deleted. So just go ahead and do that, and if you're using your own character, then I'll just go through and play all of these animations so you can see what sort of thing you need to create. So the first thing that I have is the jump idle. So this is just jumping from a standing position, and it just sort of lifts up and slowly falls down to the ground, and it ends at the point where the player is sort of about to contact with the ground. And then we have the land idle, which is that contact with the ground. And it's just very short, just like that. Then there's the jump run, which is just jumping from a running position, like so, and once again it ends, it is about to contact with the ground. And we have the land jump, the land run over here, and that's just like that. And then the last two are the slide, so that's just going down, and the get up animation from the slide, just like so. So once you've imported or created those animations, save your file, and just wait for Blender to import them. And now we just need to go onto our player and into the animations tab, and we need to set up these new animations. So we'll just add 6 new animations and go into the source and just add these one by one. We have the jump idle, land idle, the jump run. Oh, is it 7? The land run. No, it's 6. I just put in 5. My bad. The slide, and finally the get up. And then we can just apply this. And now we're going to go into our animator. And as you can see, we have this movement blend tree already set up. And now we're going to want to create a new blend tree. And we can just call this something like jumping. And if we double click on this, we're going to add in 2 motion fields. And here we're going to be blending between the jump idle and the jump run. So first the jump idle and then the jump run. And we can turn off automate thresholds, and we want to be playing the full jump run if we're going at our maximum run speed, which in my case is 12. And so yeah, we'll just be blending between these two animations. And now let's go back to our base layer by clicking over here, and let's create a new blend tree, and this will be landing. Okay, and in here we're going to have exactly the same setup, 2 motion fields, only here we're going to have our land idle and our land run as the animations are being blended. And once again, set this to your run speed over here. And so yeah, you must just remember, if you ever modify your run speed, just make sure that you change it here as well. And now, going back to our base layer, we're going to set up a new parameter, which is going to be a boolean, which is going to be jumping. So obviously this will be set to true or false from the script. and we're going to make a transition from our movement to our jumping blend tree, and this will transition if jumping is true, and we're going to transition from jumping to landing if jumping is no longer true, and we're going to go from landing to movement if say the landing animation is played more than 50%. Okay. And actually, let's also have a transition straight from the landing to the jumping if jumping is true again. So this is just in case the player hasn't even finished landing before the player starts jumping again. So just a sort of immediate jump. Now let's work on these transitions a bit. Between the movement and the jumping, we want to make this transition a little bit longer, give us a sort of smooth cross fade between these two animations. And now from the jumping to the landing, what's important is that you can see we've set this exit time to 50%. Now we don't want this landing animation to be played twice, and if this transition lasts for more than 50% of this animation, then this won't execute the first time, and it will loop and only happen the second time. So if we zoom in over here, which you can do just with your scroll wheel, you can see it shows a percentage at the bottom there. It's currently 71%, and we just want to make sure that that's less than 50%, so put it at 49% so that this transition will occur the first time. Okay, now let's go into our code, and let's create a new set of variables, which will be our states. And the first state we're going to have is a private bool jumping. Okay, and you can see we have a jump input over here in the if player physics.grounded block of code. And inside of here, if we start jumping, then jumping is of course going to be set to true. And we also want to set our animator component, the jumping parameters. We'll say set bool and call it by its name, which is jumping, and we're going to be setting it to true. Okay, now over here above it, we're going to say if jumping. Okay, now keep in mind that this is inside of the if grounded code, so if you're jumping and you grounded, that means that you've obviously landed. So now we can say that jumping is no longer true, and we're going to set the animator's parameter .set bool jumping to false. So now the landing animation is going to be playing. Okay, let's see how that is looking. Let's click play and jump, and there we go. It's working quite well. The jumping animations themselves could probably do with a little improvement, but yeah, they'll suffice for now. So we're going to get into the sliding now. So the way we're going to do this is, let me just close this, it's annoying me. We're going to have a new state, a private bool sliding. Okay, and we're going to create a new input below the jump input, or above it if you want. You can say slide input, and we're going to say if input dot get button down slide, then we're going to set this sliding to true, and we're going to say animator dot set bool sliding is also true, and of course this is something we're going to have to set up. So back to Unity. Oh, can you hear the train whistle in the background? That's really loud. Press the plus button and create a new parameter, also a bool called sliding. And we're also going to go into edit and project settings input, and we'll create a new button, and this is going to be called slide. And you can choose what button you want to trigger it, but I'm going to have my up button trigger it. Is my alternative button is going to be, sorry, not my up button, that doesn't make any sense, my down button for sliding, and for my positive button that's going to be S. And okay, that's everything we need there. Now let's continue with this. So the first thing that we want to think about is how do you stop sliding, and the way I'm going to do this is by making so when you start sliding, your character will just start to slow down, and then when it stops, then you'll come out of the slide. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to immediately set the target speed to 0. Okay, and while you're sliding, we're going to make it so that you can't actually change your direction or your speed or anything. So we're going to say, in this input here, we're going to say if not sliding, and I'm going to pause for a moment because those dogs are really noisy. Okay, they seem to have quietened down for the time being. Where were we? So if you're not sliding, then you're able to change your speed. And also, same thing applies with the face direction. So actually I'm going to copy this, or rather cut it, and I'm going to put it in here as well. Okay, and let's just format this correctly. All of this needs to go there. Okay, otherwise we'll say else. So this is if you are sliding. Now we still want our current speed to be incrementing towards the target, which we've set to 0. So we want it to slow down, but we don't want it to slow down as fast as this acceleration variable would allow, because we've set this very high, at least I have, because I want the controls to feel quite tight. So we're going to create another float, public float called slide deceleration, and we can set that to 10. And so in this else here, we'll be incrementing towards target speed by slide deceleration. And over here, just below this jumping bit of logic, perhaps we can have the sliding logic. So if sliding, then if the absolute value, so mathf.abs of the current speed is less than, say 0.25, if it's less than 0.25, then we're going to come out of the slide. So sliding equals false, and animator.setBool sliding also false. Okay, and I need an extra bracket there. I think that's everything for the code for now. Hold on, I've made an error apparently. Oh, that's of course not meant to be inside of the absolute thingy. You can say less than 0.25f. Okay, and now we want to go to our player model and open it up. So we've got all these animations here, and we want to import the slide animation and also the get up animation. Okay, so the slide animation will trigger, of course, if sliding is true, and it will transition to get up if sliding is not true, and this will transition to movement once the exit time has gone past, say, 0.6. Okay, now let's look at these transitions here. Once again, this transition is not long enough. Let's give it a bit more. And the transition into here, well, we want this to be less than 60%, which it is. You can just make this. Well, it doesn't really matter what the length of this is as long as it's less than 60%, because the animation of get up starts exactly at the end of the slide animation, so it doesn't need a transition actually. Now let's see how this looks. So sliding, you go down and you get up. That looks pretty good. Now the only problem with this is that if, for example, let's just drag one of the little background blocks that I created just to give sort of reference point to judge speed and whatnot. Say this were actually a collision block, and you now wanted to slide underneath it. You can see that doesn't really work. You just stop as soon as you come into it, and that's because if we look at our collider that's detecting the collisions, as we slide, it's still sticking way up into the air. So the way we're going to deal with this is by sliding, and while we're sliding, we just got to pause the game, and let's find our player over here. You can just press F to move the camera to it. And now we want to see what these size and center variables must be for the collider when you're sliding. So say set this to about, I'd say 1.5 is probably good, and for the Y it needs to be half of that, so that should be 0.75. And for the size on the X, that looks right at about 10. Probably a little bit bigger than 10, 10.3. And for the Z, that can just be 3. Now, the way we're going to change the collider size, as you can see in our player physics, we had this nice method set up earlier called set collider, which just takes in a size and a center. And so now, what we can do is when we detect the slide input, we can say player physics dot set collider and a new vector 3 for the size and a new vector 3 for the center. And now let's just move this across so we can see our values here that we want to pass in. So for the X it's 10.3, for the Y it's 1.5, and for the Z it's 3. And now we do the same thing for the center, so 0.35, 0.75, and 0. And now when we stop sliding, so in this block of code here, we want to reset the collider to how it was originally. So over here, we'll say player physics dot reset with a capital R, reset collider. And now we just need to create this reset collider method in player physics. And this is quite easy because we have this original size and original center, these two variables set up for us already. So if we just create a public void called reset collider, then we can just call set collider, and we can call this with our original size and our original center. Okay, now if we just start this and focus on our player with F, we can see that as we slide, the collider changes to reflect our player's size, and now we can slide right under that. Oh, I didn't notice it, didn't press in time. Yeah, just like so. And we can jump over it, and can have all sorts of fun with it. So, yeah, one last thing that I want to do for this tutorial, well, this part of the tutorial, there's still a lot of things I want to do for the series, is to make the headband wave. So the problem with this is we can't just put it in here because it needs to be playing all the time. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new layer over here, and we can call this headband. And in this headband layer, we're going to put the headband wave animation that we had set up in the beginning. And now if we press play, you can see that nothing's changed. It's not actually playing, and this is because by default the base layer has got all the weight, and the headband layer or your other layers will have no weight. So in the play controller, in the start method, we just want to say animator.set layer weight, and the layer index is 1 because it's the second layer and it starts at 0 since it's an array, and we want to set the weight to 1, which is 100%. So now both layers 0 and layer 1 have 100%. So you can see that the headband is waving, but now none of our other animations are playing, and this is because you can see the headband layer is completely overriding everything. Now we only want to override the headband. So if we go into the player and we find the headband wave animation, we can go down here to the transform mask, and here we can see all the bones that that this animation is affecting, and we can just turn them all off and go down here to the cloth, and we only want it to affect the cloth bones. Now we just hit apply, and now if we press play, as soon as it's done its thing, now if we hit apply, you can see it's waving, and we can still play all our animations. So that's everything for part 4. In part 5, I have no idea what we're going to be doing, but hopefully it'll be fun. See you then.